The last patch we received for Elden Ring was on October 17th, 2024. It reported fixing an issue with temporary boosts to player stats remaining after closing and restarting the game, as well as several other bug fixes. And that was it. I'm not even really paraphrasing. It just said it fixed that one issue and, quote, several other bug fixes, along with the standard recommendations for performance and stability issues. The last thing it said was, further updates will be distributed in the future for you to continue to enjoy Elden Ring more comfortably. So unless that was a lie, where's the final patch? Where's our last adjustments to balance? Are we a joke to you, FromSoft? The same day that patch was released, I put out a video questioning if Elden Ring was over. Weirdly, I didn't make the video after the patch was released, but the day before, and it was simple coincidence that I was immediately validated by such a nothing update. Now, nearly 4 months later, I feel even further validated. Night Rain's network test is next week, and FromSoft has been radio silent on anything else related to Elden Ring. It seems that, in all likelihood, there will be no final patch for Elden Ring, and if there is one, it will be an unceremonious bug fix that quietly concludes what has been the most monumental release for the studio. When the most recent patch came out, I gave up all hope and pretense that PvP was getting any improvements, or that some grand gesture might swoop in and soften the blow that Shadow of the Erdtree delivered with its underwhelming addition. I knew that, despite my best efforts, no amount of community outreach could pierce the veil of FromSoft's design deliberations. A 6-player limit was never in the cards, no matter how popular a concept, for reasons both obvious and obscure. Elden Ring is a great game. I know one of my most popular videos is nearly half an hour of me explaining how I find it to be bad at a lot of things that really hurt the overall experience, but I do truly enjoy what it is. I'd enjoy it a lot more if it were better catered to my interests, but that's not really anyone else's problem. And my frustrations didn't make me give up on Elden Ring's improvement. I had big hopes for Shadow of the Erdtree, and it was a big letdown. Understand, I enjoyed Shadow of the Erdtree. I really did. It just failed to meet or exceed any of my expectations, and fell short of what I felt necessary to truly improve Elden Ring. Instead of a PvP covenant that let players side with or against Miquella, we got an NPC rumble with underbaked characterization. Instead of an invasion zone where chaos and frenzy took the world, we got a vacant lot of atmosphere and patronizing warning signs. Instead of a boss fight, the likes of which we'd never seen acting as a send-off for FromSoft's most ambitious project, we got a retooled Radahn fight that it seems no one particularly likes. All of these elements converged to make Shadow of the Erdtree double down on everything Elden Ring stood for. It was never about change, but reinforcement. Which is okay. Elden Ring was never going to be the perfect game for me or for many like me because it wasn't trying to be. It wanted to capture a major audience by expanding and adapting the Souls formula to something much more accessible and inviting. When what I loved about the series was how inaccessible and uninviting it was inevitable that Elden Ring wouldn't be for me. But I still enjoy it. There's enough there for me to sink my teeth into and make content around, even if it doesn't taste great. This video marks my 50-second video posted on YouTube in 52 weeks, 1 year of uploads once a week on a channel I reserved more than 5 years prior. I've known that YouTube was something I wanted to participate in since at least 2019, but the timing never felt right. When Elden Ring was announced, I thought that'd be the moment, but after release I just felt disheartened and put it off. It was only a year ago that the wait for Shadow of the Erdtree became so unbearable that I made a video to preserve my thoughts and feelings about what we were in for. The week after I posted that video and formally began my channel, Shadow of the Erdtree got its release date. It's been a wild ride since, with some of my videos doing better than I ever could have hoped, and me being able to build a channel with more than 2,500 subscribers and more than 300,000 views. You have no idea what that means to me, and how incredibly reassuring it is to know that this is a community, and I am not alone. Still, it feels so strange to have built a channel around Elden Ring, this titan of gaming, and have basically nothing unequivocally nice to say about it. I lean toward pessimism in my critical approach because the world is an unfortunate place. I have been drawn to the works of Miyazaki because they capture that essence. So it shouldn't really be a surprise that Elden Ring has been an unfortunate release for so many. Neither should it be a surprise that Shadow of the Erdtree carried on in that tradition, and neither still is it surprising that the post-DLC patches have brought little to no improvements. The through line that most consistently reverberates in my mind when I consider why FromSoft or Miyazaki have taken certain actions or declined to take others is one of apathy. It truly feels like they just don't care. And not in the way that they're indifferent toward the game, or that they're simply going through the motions, but that, at some point, Elden Ring lost FromSoft's interest. I suspect it is due, at least in part, to the game's scope and scale. It's a huge project that reportedly pushed FromSoft to their absolute limit, and represents the upper end of what will be possible for them. Building something of that magnitude, I can only assume, is immensely tiring, grating work. It will require multitudes more effort to make any adjustment, because those adjustments impact a multitude's larger game. And when the burden of development becomes so great that any shift might crack the foundation, nuance gives way to necessity. You can't make the structure with all the flourishes and details you might want, because the structure is to be marveled for its size and you have only so many hours. That said, Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree packed considerable detail into their designs, and I stand firm that the work is top-notch on many fronts. Where it falters is in technicality, an area in which FromSoft have always struggled. Things like improving multiplayer functionality or adding something as trivial as an uncapped frame rate are things that don't speak to Elden Ring's value as a game, but as a product. They improve the user experience, but they don't articulate what the developer wants to say. Dark Souls plays in an extremely limited fashion, yet it has stood the test of time thus far as a beacon of light against a dimming industry. Despite playing in an often clunky and unintuitive manner, it remains impactful and insightful. It's a gamer's game, able to be enjoyed for the whole of its process and playtime. The bugs and glitches might throw us for a loop from time to time, and some areas leave something to be desired, but they can all add to the charm and the immersion is sound. The same is largely true of Elden Ring, but it suffers because the little things don't always add up and aren't nearly as charming. The immersion isn't as strong and it causes the technical issues to stand out. Elden Ring is spread too thin in an attempt to cover the whole of the surface, leaving conflicting details and mismatched lore bits that will likely never fit together. I hate that Godwyn's corpse is at the bottom of Stormvale and allowing Deathroot to take hold, but that it isn't the source of the castle's decay despite Roger's implications. And I hate that the corpse isn't even Godwyn, but simply an extension of his true body deeper below, without any real reasoning as to why it's recreated. And the DLC did nothing to help my understanding, instead only reinforcing that Godwyn's corpse proliferates even in the Land of Shadow. Of course, I could be wrong about that, as none of it felt especially clear. Lore is not my specialty, and I'd love for someone to give me a thorough explanation as to why it all lines up perfectly and no part is redundant, but my honest belief is that we're looking at cracks in the foundation. Adjustments were made right up to the point of release to the lore from what we know about the unpatched version and cut content, and with each change, fragments were left and either retroactively justified by tethering them to other fragments, or ignored and left for others to ponder. Elden Ring doesn't feel like a cohesive world, and instead of the convolution of time and overlapping themes with welcome speculation at every turn like Dark Souls, it evokes a sense of incompletion. I don't inherently agree with Elden Ring's assertions of the greater will or the specific nature of the relationship between Marika and Radagon, because though they are fundamental to understanding the game, they don't feel like they're especially tied to the presentation. If I told you that actually a secret thumb alien from beyond the stars was the real villain all along and was totally disconnected and corrupting the greater will's intentions, You could call me a liar or embrace me as a prophet. Either way, it's a revelation that doesn't really matter because it doesn't resonate with the experience as a player. You may feel differently, and I respect that. Interpretations will naturally vary, and any can have merit in the process of understanding. And I don't want to get into the weeds with lore, so I'm going to cut myself off there and state simply that Elden Ring's story seems as shattered to me as the Elden Ring itself. Maybe that's the point, maybe not. No patching or update is going to change the story that was told or what was left untold. But I bring up the lore because I think it is a clear representation of where FromSoft had to compromise. They couldn't put it all together as neatly as they would have liked, and the end result is a piecemeal story, frequently more style than substance. I think FromSoft wanted to tell a better story. I think they wanted to make the game even more than it already is, but resources are limited and shareholders must be appeased. And I think if FromSoft couldn't take the time to get everything right about the core experience, then anything beyond that scope, like technical issues or multiplayer functions, were never on the table. So I suspect it feels like they don't care because however exhausting Elden Ring is to play, it's more exhausting to develop. They want to move on, and I want them to move on too. But I still want that final patch. Not because it's going to fix anything. It won't. But because it represents something that Elden Ring has eluded. Closure. I've spent the last year of my life dedicated to Elden Ring, and I plan to spend the next one exploring it and other games further. I want to see what Night Rain has to offer, and I pray to Miyazaki that a PvP-focused multiplayer experience is in the cards. But as much as anything, I want Elden Ring to have closure. We all deserve a sense of finality, both we as gamers and FromSoft as developers. Leaving it open-ended may be appropriate, but for the sake of certainty and assurance, I would rest easier knowing what's done is done. I want to reiterate how much I appreciate you all, the Elden Ring community, for welcoming me into the fold and hearing me out week after week. I really didn't expect to have much success on YouTube, and while it still doesn't even remotely pay my bills or allow me much more than weekly stress and anxiety, I appreciate what's been built. If you want to support the channel and my future ventures, consider dropping a like and subscribing if you haven't already. I have a Ko-fi if you want to toss your disposable income my way, and I really do want to start a Discord and stream more if the interest is there. I promise I'm not lazy, just apprehensive and tired. And comment if you have thoughts about Elden Ring's final update, Elden Ring as a cultural phenomenon, or me as a creator and the things you want me to do. Bullying me into action is probably very effective, as I actually read every single comment to date, and while I don't always respond, please rest assured you have been seen and heard. It's been an interesting year, and I'm hopeful we'll be on to bigger and better things going forward. Night Rain's playtest is a week away, and there's rumors of a release date trailer a few days prior, so I guess let's look forward to that. It may not be anything we've hoped for as PvP faithfuls, but it's all we're getting for now. Until then, thank you for watching.